Sometimes love feels close and far away at the same time. You want it, you need it, you long toward it, but some part of you is always waiting for it to disappear, always listening for the change in someone's voice, always noticing when something a little different, a little colder, a little quieter, a little less certain, and maybe other people don't understand how quickly your heart reacts to that. How one small shift can feel so much bigger inside you. How one delayed message, one distant tone, one unreadable silence can make something in you tense up so fast. Not because you want to be dramatic, not because you want to overthink, not because you enjoy feeling this way, but because somewhere deep inside, love stopped feeling fully safe a long time ago. Maybe too early, maybe before you even had words for what was happening, maybe before you understood that the people meant to make the world feel steady could also become the reason it felt uncertain. And when something important breaks that early, sometimes the sound of it stays in the body for a very long time, even after the moment has passed, even after childhood is over, even when life keeps moving, even when you grow up and try to become strong, there can still be a part of you that braces for loss before it happened, a part of you that wants to be chosen but doesn't quite trust that being chosen means someone will stay, a part of you that wants closeness, a part of you that longs to rest in love but never fully puts its guard down. And if that is the way is always working, always scanning, always measuring, always asking quiet questions like, are they upset with me? Did I do something wrong? Are they getting tired of me? Am I too much right now? Should I say less? Should I need less? Should I act like I'm okay? Maybe you know that voice very well. Maybe it comes in late at night. Maybe it shows up after a conversation. And maybe it sits beside you in silence and turns small moment into bigger fears. And maybe the hardest part is that people around you do not always see how exhausting that is. From the outside, you may look thoughtful, careful, loving, patient, but inside you might be carrying the constant weight of trying not to be left, trying not to be forgotten, trying not to be too difficult to keep, trying not to need so much that someone decides it's easier to walk away. That is such a heavy way to move through love, such a lonely way to want connection, because even when someone is close, part of you may still feel like you have to understand, earn the softness, earn the consistency, earn the reassurance, earn the right to relax. But love was never supposed to feel like something you had to constantly audition for. You were never meant to become smaller and smaller just to make abandonment less likely. You were never meant to monitor every word, every pose, every facial expression just to feel a little safer. And if you did learn to live that way, I hope you know it makes sense. It makes sense that your heart became careful. It makes sense that closeness sometimes wakes up fear. It makes sense that you can deeply love someone and still feel scared inside that love. It makes sense that you want warmth, but also worry about what happens when the warmth changes. Sometimes people say, just trust, just relax, just don't overthinking. But for someone whose sense of safety was shaken early, those words can feel so simple from the outside and so impossible from the inside, because you're not just dealing with one moment, you are This person is not that person. This moment is not the past. Sometimes the feeling arrives first, fast, heavy, sharp, and suddenly you are not just in today anymore. You are in every moment that ever made love feel unstable. Every moment that taught you that closeness can change. Every moment that made your chest tighten before you even understood what fear was. So no, you're not weak for feeling deeply. You are not embarrassing for wanting steadiness. You are not childish for being sensitive to distance. And you are not hard to love because uncertainty affects you more than it seems to affect other people. There are reasons your heart moves this way. There are reasons it stutters easily. There are reasons reassurance can feel so precious. There are reasons being left, even in small emotional ways, can feel much bigger than anyone else realizes. And tonight, I do not want to rush out of any of that. I do not want to turn your pain into a lesson too quickly. I do not want to tell you to fix yourself. I just want to sit beside the truth for a little while. The truth that maybe you have spent a long time wanting love to feel safe. The truth that maybe part of you still doesn't know how to believe that someone can stay gentle, stay steady, stay present. The truth that maybe your heart gets tired from preparing for loss, even in moments that are supposed to feel tender. That tiredness matters, that fear matters, and new matters, especially in the places where you feel hardest to hold. Maybe there is a younger part of you that still feels confused, still trying to understand why the ground shifted so early, still wondering why something that should have felt stable didn't, still learning how to stand in relationships without expecting the flower to move. If that part of you is still there, stay quiet, still alert. I hope you can be gentle with it tonight. Not because it has all the answers, not because it knows how to trust perfectly, but because it has been carrying a lot for a very long time, maybe too much, maybe longer than anyone realized, and maybe what it needs most, it's not criticism, not pressure, not shame, not another voice saying, "Why are you like this? Why can't you just be normal? Why can't you calm down? Why do you care so much?" Maybe what it needs is a soft voice, a voice that says, I understand why this feels scary. I understand why closeness can make you nervous. I understand why silence can feel loud. I understand why your heart tries to protect you. You're not silly for wanting consistency. You're not needed for hoping someone means what they say. You are not foolish for feeling relieved when love feels clear and gentle. You are just someone who has known what instability can do to a heart, and that heart deserved patience, real patience, not the kind that tolerates you from a distance, the kind that stays soft, the kind that does not mock your sensitivity, the kind that does not make you feel guilty for having tender places, the kind that does not punish you for wanting reassurance once in a while, because tender hearts do not need less love. They need safer love, softer love, clearer love, love that does not keep disappearing and reappearing until your nervous system forgets how to rest. And maybe even hearing that feels emotional, because maybe you are so used to adjusting to inconsistency that part of you forgot you are allowed to want peace, allowed to want steadiness, allowed to want something that does not keep your heart in survivor mode, allowed to stop pretending that being hyper aware is the same thing as being secure. It isn't. It is exhausting. It is lonely. It is heavy. And if you have been carrying that heaviness quietly, I hope this moment gives it a little room to breathe. You do not have to justify why certain things hurt. You do not have to explain why mixed signals wear you down. You do not have to defend why emotional distance affects you so strongly. Your heart has history. Your reactions have history. Your fear has history. And while that history does not define all of you, it deserves compassion, because compassion is different from indulgence. Compassion simply said, I see why this is hard for you. I see that your heart has learned certain things. I see that closeness has not always felt safe. I see that you are trying and trying, count, trying to love, trying to trust, trying not to run, trying not to cling too hard, trying to stay balanced inside feelings that do not always feel is a real effort, even if nobody else sees it, even if they only see the moment where you seem sensitive, even if they only notice the part of you that react instead of the parts of you that have been working so hard to stay steady. So tonight, please don't reduce yourself to your fear. You are not just the part of you that worries. You are not just the part of you that spirals. You are not just the part of you that reads into every pause. You are also the part that keeps hoping, the part that still wants connection, the part that still believes love could feel warm and safe, the part that keeps showing up with tenderness even after being hot. That part of you is beautiful, quietly beautiful, because it would have been so easy to stop feeling, to stop opening, to stop caring. But you didn't. You still love, you still hope, you still long for something gentle and real. And that longing is not weakness, it is evidence that your heart is still alive, still reaching, still believing there is something soft possible. So maybe tonight, instead of asking yourself why you are this way, you can just rest beside the truth that you have been carrying a complicated kind of love inside you. A love that wants closeness, a love that fears loss, a love that wants to trust, a love that is still learning how. That is tender work, slow work, invisible work, and you do not have to complete all tonight. You do not have to become completely secure by tomorrow. You do not have to force your heart into calmness. You do not have to shame yourself into healing faster. You are allowed to be in progress, allowed to be affected, allowed to still have tender places, allowed to need gentleness while you learn what safety feels like. And maybe that is all this moment needs to be. Not a solution, not a breakthrough, just a soft place to stand. A place where your fear does not get mocked. A place where your sensitivity is not treated like a flaw. A place where the younger, frightened parts of you do not have to hide so hard. A place where you can hear something simple and true. You did not choose what hurt you. You did not choose how early instability entered your world. You did not choose the way loss shaped your nervous system. But none of that makes you unlovable. None of that makes you too damaged for closeness. None of that means you have to spend the rest of your life begging for peace inside love. feel ashamed for receiving it. You deserve to be with people who do not make your heart feel like it must constantly prepare for living. And until more of that finds you, I hope you can at least offer yourself this tonight. A little less blame, a little more understanding, a little less self-punishment, a little more softness toward the parts of you that are scared, because scared parts are not bad parts. Sensitive parts are not weak parts. They are just parts that remember, parts that learned too early, that love and uncertainty can alive together, parts that are still hoping someone will prove that closeness does not always end in loss. And maybe very slowly you can become someone safe for yourself too. Not perfect, not fearless, just gentle, just honest, just willing to say, I know why this hurts. I know why this feels big. I know why my heart reacts this way. This way. I am not going to turn against myself for it. The method, the kind of inner softness method, especially for someone who has spent so much time feeling emotionally praised. So tonight, you do not have to solve the whole story. You do not have to untangle every old wound. You do not have to force trust. You do not have to prove you are healed enough. You can simply rest. Rest as someone whose heart has been carrying fear for a long time. Rest as someone who still wants love anyway. Rest as someone who is learning slowly that tenderness and safety may still be possible. And for now, that is enough. You are not too much. You are not too fragile. You are not too difficult to stay with. You are not asking for something unreasonable when you long for steadiness. You are a person whose heart has known uncertainty, a person still trying to believe in staying, a person still worthy of soft love, very worthy, even now, especially now. I hope you sleep well tonight. I hope you sleep